This is the Reflector Reflections podcast. My name is Annie. Join me as we journey around the world, talking with fellow human design reflectors as they experiment and navigate their unique design. Today's beautiful conversation is with Jeremy. Jeremy is a 1-3 reflector and relatively new to finding out he's a reflector. So in this episode, we're going to talk on his transitory life and his journey till now. Welcome, beautiful soul.
Thank you so much, Annie. I appreciate that so much. And I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for this opportunity.
You are more than welcome. As we always do, let's talk about you. How did human design find you, or how did you find human design?
Well, all right. That's been like a little bit of an adventure. I started off really diving into astrology. And the big step with that was I was only familiar with the sun signs, and I was like, how do people say that astrology can tell you so much about yourself, but there's only a sun sign? And that was a question that kicked me into digging deeper on the astrology side. And when it came down to human design, of course, as you said, was more recently. I found that because, well, 1-3 reflector, right? Doing a little bit of research. I was in this space personally where I was having trouble setting up process in my life that can give me growth, like consistent diet, consistent workout, just having these patterns in my life. And I just couldn't stick to it. Like I was just struggling with that on such a deep level. And as I was like trying to Google things to help me out with this process, journaling, different mental hacks and things like that, the human design started popping up. And I was like, okay, what's this about? I Ching, astrology, chakras. Okay, I know a little bit about all those. I Ching catches my attention because I never understood it enough to really dive into it. And like from that point, everything just really started coming together for me because I just started letting go of needing to be certain things and allowing certain things to flow and trying to find whatever my internal consistency was. And honestly, judging each chakra and understanding how how the energy flows between different things has just been such a huge help for me in processing myself and setting a clearer picture on what I actually need to be focusing on to get personal success.
Yeah, wow. So how did it feel? We always talk about this when some of us find out we're like elated and we're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so blissfully happy. Others like me were just like distraught for 3 days and go on a bender. How did you process this? Did it?
Oh, like it was that slow light bulb coming on feeling for me of like, huh? Reflector. Wait, so none of my chakras are defined? So I'm taking in everything? Yeah. Whoa. And like really realizing what that means, the struggles that I had as a kid and as a teenager and into where I am now and and the issues I had with relating to people in a general sense. And it's like, okay, this makes so much sense. I've been focusing on all the wrong things. No wonder I've been struggling. Um, so like for me, it was just like a breath of fresh air, a relief of like, okay, I just need to shift my focus. I'm okay. I'm not
Yeah.
crazy.
You're not crazy. I love that because that is it. Sometimes you just think, I am really crazy. Like, what is wrong with me? Isn't it? You probably said that to yourself throughout your whole life. What's wrong with me? Why can't I keep this, as you were
Yes.
saying, consistency and what?
Yes, yes. Because like an interesting thing that for me is like I grew up studying fighting, like not just the traditional boxing, kickboxing, but like because of my brother started getting into like the Filipino arts, like Eskrima and Kali, and that went into kung fu and et cetera, et cetera. So I was always in a neighborhood of dealing with energy and how things flow in a direct relationship between initiation and receiving. It's just I never fully had this to put everything together in the smooth way human design does.
That's quite interesting that you say that, and I want to ask you, like, if you
Mhm,
are fighting or mixed martial arts and that kind of thing, how does that
mhm.
feel? Have you always kind of intuitively known? Have you felt your opponent? It's probably a very strange question, but it's just like
No,
I
no, no,
wonder
no.
how
That's a
that
good
would
one.
feel um, in that
Like,
competitive sport.
okay, so to talk about fighting from a human design from human design perspective, especially being a reflector, my style has always been go with the established flow and adapt and overwhelm. So like I would be fighting someone and I would notice that like, okay, this is a very this person that they shoot off combinations in a focused and intense way, and they do that in rhythm. I'm like, oh, okay, so I will receive those and I'll get a better understanding of his pattern as we're sparring, and then I'll overcome and adapt through that. So it's really like I kind of take on the same persona as a reflector that of the opponent that I'm fighting. So it's weird in a sense. It's almost like I go into different characters internally in order to deal with the opponent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have and the reason I asked that is because over the last year, I've met with a fellow reflector here in my home city who's a
Hmm.
lawyer. She's a criminal lawyer,
Hmm.
and she often says to me, it feels like now that I know all this, it's an unfair advantage because I can see through all the bullshit." Um,
Yeah.
and I wonder how that would feel in that kind of sense. Yeah, I'm just very, very curious about that. Now, let's take us back. You were saying that it kind of, you're finding this out, and we do this, we sort of like then chunk back through our life and look
Hmm.
towards our younger years, our teenage years, and how we've traversed that or transitioned through all that. Would you
Hmm.
mind sharing with us what little Jeremy went through and how that affected you or not affected you?
Sure. So going back from the beginning, like when I was a child, growing up, household, school, all that. Because of the way that my life went, my mother was always the consistent voice in the back of my mind with everything that was going on. Because my household was very chaotic. Father wasn't always making the right decisions, so my mother really stepped up to the mantle and did a phenomenal job, especially with the pressures that she was dealing with. Um, so there was always this conditioning in the back of my mind that I was aware of that came from my parents that affected a lot of how I interacted with people. Um, but when it came down to relating to people and trying to find my place in the community, it was always it was always a challenge for me because I was trying to always be in the community, and I would see it's like, okay, you like playing basketball. It's like, yeah, I like, but basketball really isn't my deal. So I can't get into it passionately the same that the rest of the kids could. Or even when it came down to having casual conversations, I was a person I always wanted to dig into it on a deeper level. And it's like like let's say there's 5 levels. Once I got past level 3, people just kind of looked at me. And it's like, I don't care about that part. It's kind of weird that you care about that part. And it's like, oh, okay, well,
There's my first line right there.
exactly. Always there, always popping up. Um, so like, as a child, I kind of found myself taking a very observer's perspective on the people that were around me and interacting where it was necessary for me to function. Um, I was always phenomenal at school. That was easy. Just study, memorize a couple things, take a few tests. Like that part was easy for me. But yeah, I spent more time recognizing the unique things that was going on in my community and seeing it's like, okay, I can't be friends with you because you're always angry about something. I'm not old enough to understand what it is you're angry about, but I can tell you're always angry about something, or you always seem to have a specific issue with me. And it's like, I know what it is, but I also know that I can't talk about it because that's just going to turn into more of an altercation. Um, so yeah, just a lot of little things like that. Uh, as I got older, my social circle like blew up, going from elementary, junior high to high school. That was a huge culture shock for me. It was a culture shock in the sense that all the things that were bottled up or not socially acceptable, like while I was in those formative years, all the way up to 8th grade, now I had outlets in different social circles that I could express and expose aspects of myself. So I was that guy in high school that knew everybody, at least knew someone in every circle, and I was always just bouncing around. I never really belonged anywhere. Um, it was just fun to explore the different things I was interested in. I was able to get into drama. I was able to get into dance. I was able to get into sports. I was able to get into fitness and to get in the gym and understand myself as a power lifter. Yeah, just everything was there for me,
That's
and,
incredible.
like in some way, shape, or form.
That's incredible. You literally were sampling your whole way through high school and loving
Yeah,
it and living it and not
yeah,
being restricted.
yeah. And of course, like I didn't have this information, so it's that thing in the back of my mind. It's like, where do I belong while being
Mm.
exactly where I'm supposed to be the entire time?
Yeah.
It was just always this weird pull for me.
And that feeling of where do I belong? Did it kind of like, or as you say, always sit in the back of your head? And so you tried to, as you were saying there before, about trying to kind of get more into groups and go, well, I should like this more, but I
Mm.
kind of don't. I've done it now. I've experienced it. I need to try something else. Did that ever throw you into something that you got stuck in your life, like a job or a hobby or something where you felt compelled to stay in it, stay in the lines?
I wouldn't say it was I felt compelled to do it. It was more so I got stuck in identities,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yes.
Um, because like some people they see me as like, oh, that's the fighter, or like, oh, that's the dancer, or like, oh, that's the speaker. And it's like they knew me as that, so I couldn't be anything else in those circles. And I tried to bring different aspects to myself. That's when like everyone took a perverse perspective of who I was. So in ways I felt like being a generalist didn't hold me because people couldn't process a generalist.
Yes. Yes. I've been having a lot of these conversations about the chameleon aspect of us. And
Hmm.
um, on another podcast that's coming out, we talk about exactly what you just said then, and
Hmm.
how the identity of I'm the fighter here in this group, so I've got to now play the fighter role, and
Hmm.
then onto this group, so I'm the dancer here now, I've got to play this role, and it's
Right.
like a shattering of self, isn't it? It's like you're splintered into so many different variations. Exactly what you said.
Ex-
Why can't I just be a generalist?
yes, yes. And even like with work, that was something that affected me. Because of various things that was happening in my life, I wasn't able to go I wasn't able to go to college at the traditional time. So I want to say I spent like 18 to about 23 in this space of just doing like warehouse jobs, retail jobs, things like that. So I was never able to, like my life never settled in a way where I was allowed to focus on a particular skill set to advance into a more, what's the word? Prosperous career field. And that was also played into with the general skill sets. I like this and I like that and I want to try that and I want to try that. So that age between like 18 to 22 was completely experimental for me in a way. Um, but like once I hit 25, I made the decision to join the military, which I'm still currently a part of. And this has given me that foundation of skills and credentials and credibility that I need. So when I go back to the civilian world, I'll have a stronger platform that I can experiment more on,
Yeah.
or that I'll have the freedom to experiment more.
Has that given you or allowed you to still be sampling and experiencing different things being in the military?
Oh, that's so complicated.
Yes, I said that and I'm like, oh, tricky one.
Yes and no.
Mm.
Um, because the best way that I can explain it is there's conditioning that you get from the world in general, right? And then when you join the military, there's a conditioning in the military and your expected behaviors and your expected inputs and your expected outputs. So like in a way I was still pigeonholed, but I was okay with it because hey, I did my research, I knew what I was getting into, I knew what the benefits were, I knew where I could focus my energy and have my fulfillment. But yeah, the military is a condition in of itself because again it requires me to behave in a certain way. So I was still being looked at, the perspective of who I was and what I was capable of became based on what was on my chest in terms of my rank, because based on what my rank was. And if you didn't know me, that I wasn't able to escape that box until I really went out of my way and spent time with you, because I'm a 42 Alpha human resource specialist. So I had to go out of my way and establish relationships with people so that they knew, hey, yes, we're in the military. These are the principles I stand on as a person. I will be consistent. I will be dedicated. And I do know how to do my job. You can come to me. And to establish my identity, I had to do a lot of that with key personnel within my organization. Um, but yes, and every time I transition or every time I bump into people that don't know me and just have whatever assumptions that they have based on rank or what they heard about me, it's like another uphill battle. So I constantly have to do that.
Yeah, wow. So you're just saying they're human resources. So being able
Yes.
to be in space with people, and even if they're projecting onto you or you're, reflecting back to them,
Hmm.
when they do get in your space for a while, do they find you easy to be with? Or is it as you were
Yes.
saying, a constant? Okay, yeah.
Yes. Because like I put a lot of self work in myself. So it's like I know how to have conversation with people. I know how to speak. I know how to fill up a room. I know how to, in a human design context, I can say it's like I know how to play the role of a defined chakra in different spaces. So it's like people were able to pick up on the fact that I was adaptable like that, and that made me more approachable. And from that approachability, that's when they found out like, oh, he knows how to he knows his stuff. So I can trust him. I can go to him for questions.
Yeah.
So like that was a huge help. But again, there's still more nuance to it because there are people who were technically my bosses and they're supposed to be the authority on the thing. But yet, majority of people felt comfortable coming to me,
Yeah.
and so it's always this before juggling game.
Yeah. You're pissing them off before you even get a chance.
Yeah.
You see through it. You're the perfect robot in the program because you see through it all. And yeah, that would be a challenge. I could only imagine how much of a challenge that would be to kind of not be a know-it-all, but to feel your whole body feels this openness of what is happening around you. So it's a knowing, but having to play the part and having to sort of like subdue yourself, especially in the military, as you were saying about rank and going, I can't say that because my
Exactly.
superior is going to stomp on me even more, but I see right through everything. It'd just be like,
Mhm.
there's a little box that you're being put in, isn't it?
Yeah, but completely worth it. Like, yeah, there's some struggles, but so many opportunities for personal growth. Learn so many things. Humility, patience, even if you already have them, just having those expanded upon. It's a process that might hurt. You might be angry, but it's so worth it.
I love that. And I've seen your chart. You've got a completely open G center like me. And I'm so inspired because here's you. I mean, and you're your own person, but just looking at it
Mhm.
from that, you kind of know this, who you are, and I'm getting that sense because you've just like grabbed it and gone, okay, this is my, and here's me wading through my life and going, I have no fucking clue.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, like and even then, like it's a struggle because sometimes you stop listening to yourself for a while and you listen to everyone else, and it's like I am weird. Why am I doing this? And you just gotta come back to yourself. It's like, yes, you are weird. Now say it now say you're weird in the other context because you know you're weird. But it's just being comfortable with that and just being like, I know you don't understand why I'm doing this, but I'm doing this for a reason. You can trust me, you cannot trust, but it is what it
uh,
is.
I love that. That is so good. So have you had throughout your life like a spiritual practice or being spiritually minded, or you've just been
Mhm.
very, yeah? Would you like to talk on that?
Sure. So growing up, like I said, my mother was a huge presence in life. Going to talk about this a little bit later, but my mother is a projector. So she has the defined crown, anja, and she also has a defined root. But she is based Christian. like very Christian, very conservative in those ways. But the thing that I absolutely have loved about my mother is that she leans more so on the spiritual side and on the principle sides of Christianity. So while yes, she does want everything to be conservative, but she also has this great rhetoric and great understanding of spiritual matters that like it's still that I can still communicate with her effectively and in a healthy way. Um, so it's like to the point that like I still and like because of that and because of her, I still express myself and say like, yes, I'm a Christian. I practice Christianity. That's my primary thing. But I'm just open to and I understand other practices and why other people operate the way that they do. Um, so like Christianity is kind of like the big umbrella that's always been like there and present throughout my life. Because of different projects I've gotten into and just out of sheer curiosity, I've definitely studied different religions, and even through like martial arts, because martial arts lends itself easily to things within Hinduism and
Yeah.
Buddhism. Uh, but I'm more so at a point where I say that yes, I am a Christian, but I focus more so on the spiritual health and being healthy and how in myself and how I communicate with people. I'm not a big fan. Well, that's a whole another conversation. But just to say it in a general sense, I'm not a big fan of heavy-handed religious practices because I feel like that demand of behavior instills anxieties in people that at an age or at a space where they don't know how to process who they are in the light of that pressure.
Mm. Yeah, you see right through it. That's the God-given gift. And I know I say that a lot, but it's just as simple as that. It's just like we see through the bullshit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful, I can really relate to that as well. Christianity growing up myself.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's also, my adopted mother's also a projector, and defined hen. So that leads us into that of when you found this out about you, looking at your whole family, did you stalk everyone's charts and what have we got? What's your dynamic?
As much as I could, I wasn't able to get everyone's information. Because unfortunately, I lost my brother a few years back. I know his birthday is, but I just don't know his time of birth. And I got to get that information, have deeper conversation with my mother to sort all that out. But as I said, my mother, she's a projector. My father, I don't know what his chart is. From his behaviors, I really want to say that he is like either a generator because he does not stop. He is always doing something. It's like he really is just that person. He'll randomly just get up and just start doing stuff, and like you wake up in the middle of the night. um yeah, so as far as my family, all I know is that my mother's a projector, and that's been helpful in me a better understanding of how I can communicate with her and what her strengths and advantages are.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mm.
And a self-projected projector, or is she a mental projector? Do you know the you're going to have a look now.
Yes.
And it's quite interesting that, you've had that, because there's only a third of us that have that defined, not us, them. We don't know what's that, a third of them that have that defined head center. And
Mhm.
I've often noticed in my life when I'm around people that have a defined head, because I have a completely open head center. Actually, I think you do too.
Mhm.
And you can feel it. It's like all of a sudden, all of these thoughts become a little bit clearer to hear. Have you, I guess,
Yes.
being raised in that environment, it might be why your mind can be a bit more structured. I'm only alluding stuff here, but it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, to that effect, the thing that happened for me, like again, I grew up in martial arts and like my brother was always bringing home literature. So I didn't read his most popular book, but one of the books at my home was Paulo, and also butcher his last name, but Paul Sciallo, the same guy who wrote The Alchemist.
Yep.
He has another called The Warrior of the Light. Like reading that and then playing that in context with other with other literature, like sorry, I thought I heard something. But putting that in context with other literatures like The Art of War, on the 48 Laws of Power, and there were others, or even Bruce Lee's journal, because he has his own philosophy of how he goes about things. Miyamoto Musashi's The Book of Five Rings. All of those just talked about energy and structure and how it relates to the elements and how things dynamically build upon each other, and if you're struggling with this, that's probably because you're weak in this area. And that just always gave me a structure on like how I can organize myself and how I can keep building myself. So my brother played a huge role in helping me stay grounded mentally.
Yeah. It'd be fascinating to try and research into his chart. A lot of us have done this before. We don't know. We know when they're born, the day they were born, and we've sat there and gone like every 30 minutes and just tried to piece it together. There's a way of finding it out, and you kind of get a vibe for it, and you're like, that'd explain that profile or that type,
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely going to having that conversation with my brother, because like thinking about how huge of an influence was, it would be cool to know like what I was getting from specifically.
Yes. Yeah. And you said that there was that grounding aspect. So it'd be very interesting your mum also had that defined route. Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love kind of like throwing caution to the wind and just journeying through and going, this is my experience. And a lot of us, we talk about how we've been conditioned in a generator kind of world and go, do. What you were saying, with your father, he can't stop. But sometimes our conditioning can also be beneficial, because it sounds to me like your mum was able to condition you really well. And especially you've been able to sort of use your body and drop into your body from a very early age with martial arts. And I just find that really inspiring for parents as well, to go, look, this is a really good tool to use with children, especially reflectors.
Absolutely. There's so much you can get out of martial arts once you're on it. Even if the parent personally into it, and they can really talk about like the ins and outs. Because a weird thing I like with people is, if I'm going to coach someone, or it's like, you know what, I noticed that you're just struggling with conversations with people, and there's certain things that you do. Now, I've also been paying attention to the way you walk and move and do your workouts. You're doing the same thing physically that you do in conversation. So it's like I would teach some basic movements in a fight, and they make the same mistakes physically that they do conversation. And it's just like a very interesting thing.
That you just got, my mind's just gone boof. Then what you just said about watching somebody move physically generally will mimic how they move, like in their mind. Well, that's what I heard, in their mind or in their life. And I'm like, wow,
yeah,
that is so true. That is so true.
Yeah, because the last time I did this with Eddie, is just like, he is a guy who, it doesn't matter what room he is, it doesn't matter what environment he is just going to say the most abrasive thing that naturally comes to his mind. But like it's just such a disruptive thought. It's like, time and place, guy. Come on, what's going on? And I was shown something called the Singon Sonwale, which is a technique from stick fighting, or Filipino stick fighting, eskrima, where it's just basically a simple wave motions. Like you're just doing this with your hands. There's a block and there's a strike associated with it. But there's also footwork is protective and also energizes a strike. And what I know with that he would do with his footwork is he is very flexible from like the knee down. So like if you're supposed to turn your foot this way, he would hyper do it. And like when I called that out to him, he says like, yeah, I've always been super flexible. So like with this, so I think that while most people need to do it perfectly this way, I don't think that applies to me, because I have that more flexibility, which again was that like him applying something like, yes, you have that flexibility and that capacity, but you're overextending and putting yourself in a place of weakness. And like you constantly do that socially. So like once I called that out to him, and then I related that to that, and he was like, wow, that makes such sense. And I'm leaving myself vulnerable like this, and he could just feel that, wow, my side is vulnerable. Maybe that's why people look at me so odd. And like just so you have that like have that self-realization moment.
Yeah. Gosh, I love that. Um, when you were saying that, it just came to me as well. We speak a lot in the reflector community about, a lot of people when they find this out and having completely white centers, completely open, or completely open, but open centers, undefined, I should say. Let me use the correct terminology. Um, they feel like it's a weakness. And we've had discussions about those that have definition, and we kind of look to them, or some have looked towards types that have a lot of definition and feel, oh, I want that. But just what you were saying then about having the fluidity to kind of like breathe in and out, to flow through it,
Hmm.
whereas the defined types can get a little bit caught and rigid in their ways.
Yeah.
So when you were just talking then, it kind of reminded me of that, to just go, we are the dancing dragons, that being
Yeah.
able to kind of like allow that. And the more we try to be rigid like the other types, we can't flow. We become like,
Yes.
oh,
Yes. Yes. They're just kind of like, wow, I'm using this hammer to beat this nail, but like it's just not working. Is this oh, this isn't a nail. Why am I still using a hammer?
oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where are you
That
sitting now? Oh, sorry, keep going.
um I was just gonna say that's something that sometimes I let the conditioning that's around me overtake me subconsciously, and I'll be in that mode, or even something that'll happen at work. Hey, there's LPs in this process for everything. There's a certain way that things need to be done. So you can know that you're going to do is about to break, but you're still required to do it. And like excuse me. I'm just saying that I've observed both internally and externally of myself, of like, wow, I'm in a system that's forcing me to do something in a way that doesn't work, even though this is a simple fix. And I've also been subconsciously, I guess, conditioned to like where I'm doing it, and I'm not realizing that I'm making this mistake. I have to come back to myself and really analyze the moment and be like, let it go.
I want to talking about analyzing the moment. So
Mhm,
that 1-3, have you dabbled in, obviously you've dabbled in your profile.
mhm.
Have you kind of explored how that sits in the 12 types of the 12 profiles?
Um, you mean the significance of being a 1-3 versus being anything else? Like what is we
Yeah.
contribute to the whole?
Yeah.
Um, looking at it, okay, so looking at it specific from the 1-3, I've looked at it from the perspective of like, wow, it is my job to develop experience, to be a holder, like to be a researcher and holder of as much information as my life and as the moment will allow me. So I feel like my contribution is knowledge and is wisdom, is experience. I've looked at a couple other types, because like again, my big passion has been how do I relate to people, and understanding the profiles that I communicate with the best, and then meeting people that have those profiles and seeing where we clash, or where we have synergies. um I I have realized that there are just certain profiles and certain personalities that I just not fathom. I understand logically how you function, but I just can't mentally get there to the place of like, how are you doing that? Like that's the place I keep coming to. Because when I look at hermits, and it's like, yeah, I can understand being away from everyone for a period of time and then needing to come back. But it's like that changes so rapidly for me. I have a week. Don't contact me, don't bug me. I'm not hanging out with anybody, none of that, focusing on my own stuff. And then I'll have a month like I need to be out around people. I need to be doing something. I need to body double. Like I need some form of social contact. So it's like the people who consistently be in those spaces, that's just something I cannot fathom. It's like I appreciate what you can contribute and what that does for you, and I can respect that. But it's like, man,
I think the two four, and I've sort of said this before, and I mean this lovingly. So anybody listening to this, please Don't take any disrespect. The 2-4 always reminds me of one of those idol judges where they is that they turn the chair, or is that The Voice? That's right. I always get this wrong. There's this show called The Voice, and
Mm-hmm.
people sing or dance or do something. I think it's singing, and
Yeah.
they've got their back to them. And if they like what you've got to say, they'll turn their chair. That's a
Mhm.
2-4 to me. I always just, because my partner's a 2-4, and I just know that there's this, if you interrupt him before he's ready, he just gives you the side glare.
Yeah.
And you just go, oh, out of here. But at the same time, the 4 line is really about that network and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So they're quite a quandary, that the 2-4.
Yeah, that's so interesting to think about.
It to be
I need the
yeah.
connection, but I need to judge you aggressively first. But
Yes. And don't call me out until I'm ready,
right,
because
right.
I'm quite happy to be here, but at the same time, unconsciously, I need to be called out.
Hmm.
Be like a
So
screaming
interesting.
child. You got to drag them out and go, you need to
Right.
socialize a little bit. Come on, off you go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that kind of speaks to something I struggle with when I'm dealing with people sometimes, because like I'll be dealing with like a heretic or just someone has someone who has it in their design where they need to be that explosion, that like that big aggressive thing, and that's them being themselves in a way that they need to be. And it's like I'll be on the receiving end of that, and I'll just be like, maybe you should chill out. Do you need to? Should you? Hmm. And it's just kind of like getting out of the direction of how I feel about that, and then just trying to be real with myself. Is like, does that need to happen? Did I need that to happen? Am I off? Am I that far off? Like, and just keep myself, like those are always things, because like I feel like the reaction hits me so hard in my body that like I have to really take my time and step away and be like, I don't know if I'm in the wrong there, or like I don't know if I'm operating correctly there, or I'm contributing to the problem, but I just can't tell, so I'm just going to step away.
It's really interesting you say that, because that is how it feels to be a reflector. What you just said, it hits me in my body,
Hmm.
and often what happens is we're meeting there. This is where the reflector happens, where we can't just deflect and go, oh, well, that's always them and it's never us. But a lot of
Hmm.
the time it is, and that's what you just said then, is a natural thing where you'll step back, because
Hmm.
that's some
Hmm.
of the advice that we like to give people. It's just like, if you're in an environment and you're feeling like, whoa, this is someone's coming at me really strong,
Yeah,
just actually stepping back and stepping away from them a little bit, if you can kind of feel you again and go, oh, that's actually them.
yeah.
um and this is the juggle of being a reflector, is that having that going, oh shit, what have I done now? Or crap,
Hmm.
was that me? And we
Hmm.
second guess ourselves.
Exactly, exactly. It's kind of like that grip of anxiety just kind of hits you, and it's like, hold on, I'm making this of me. I'm making this about me. Anxiety, fear, different
Yep.
insecurities, and also don't let them lead to whatever magic phrases are. And you're just sitting there like gripping the sides of your chair internally. It's like, okay,
Oh,
just
hold
going
on here. It'll pass. It'll
right,
pass. We're
right.
just going up into orbit. It'll pass. And we'll be
Uh,
free floating again soon. Yeah. Yeah, it is like that. And sometimes I know myself, it will be like, instead of taking things personally, now it's hard, but most of the time I just go, okay, I know that's not me.
mhm.
Um, I wonder how that person must be feeling today. Clearly, they're feeling very agitated. They're feeling very angry. They're feeling very anxious.
Right, right.
And I kind of just am able to just, literally shake it off. But
Mhm.
yeah, I love what you said then. Sometimes you just got to grip the chair for dear life and go, hold the fuck on.
Right. Oh, it's like, why is this person like this? Oh my goodness.
It's a journey. So where are you at, I suppose, in your journey now? Like you're are you actively experimenting, or are you just curious? Where are you at the
Um,
moment?
have trouble saying actively experimenting, not like because I don't agree with it, just because like I feel like I'm doing it constantly, but
Mhm.
like I do it in such a way it feels passive. Um, so I guess it's straight and be yes, I do feel like I'm actively experimenting. And as I'm paying attention to things and paying attention to myself, and how I interact with people, I feel like I identified. I'm more so at a point where it's like I want to cultivate my community. I want the right people around me, and I'm tired of people seeing me act in a certain way and assuming that, like, oh, he's out of it, he's this, he's that, and, and not coming to me and seeing where I'm at, making the assumption when they approach instead of coming to me with questions when they approach.
Oh, mate,
uh
you are speaking to the choir. You've just worded that. I've just got to make a note. You've just worded that like brilliantly. I'm sorry, but that's gold. Keep going. Sorry for interrupting. I just had to.
per- Perfectly fine, perfectly fine. um and thank you. But like, I really am at that point where it's like I want to get to whatever that place is in my life where I can find those people, and also trying to search in my current immediate community to see, it's like, okay, who, by the way, I am in transitionary period for this entire year. Reason being, this is the year that I'm doing all the work to exit the military and go back to the civilian side. So I'm getting my education right. I'm getting all my medical stuff like properly documented with the military. Um, like there are certain pushes and pulls with the military that like it is natural there, because like as you're exiting you're still in, so there's still expectations of you, but at the same time the military has an obligation to allow you to do the certain processes. But it's like, it's those little moments that's like, wait, but we need you here. Okay, go do your thing. Um So it's like I feel this general need to take stock of everything around me and make sure that I'm honing in. By the way, I'm a last minute person. When and this year is last minute for me, so that's a part of why I feel this pressure to get things done and to get things handled and to get myself where I need to be to have a successful swimming career. Um,
Do you enjoy that
and
last minute stuff? Do you enjoy having like doing things last minute?
if I am intentional about it, absolutely.
Yeah.
um because again, I've identified this about me, so I know that like if I'm doing schoolwork, right, like now I know I have a bunch of homework that I need to take care of. It's a lot. I have a plan and I know how to attack it. I've read the things I need to read. I've been internally processing that and coming up with my answers. So if I'm prepared for it, it's great. If it just hits me out of nowhere and it's like, oh, okay, do I have the skills for this? Who do I need to call for help? Do I even need help? Those are anxiety moments that like I don't like, and I'm at a point in life where it's like I know that these things can be prepared for. It's just either somebody failed in preparation or failed in communication to let me know, or I just wasn't paying attention. I was being negligent. So in a prepared sense, yes, love last minute stuff. I am an all star. You like when it comes down to last minute stuff and it has something to do with me, be happy. I got you. It's gonna go great.
I was
But if
just
it's just
thinking about,
spontaneous,
yeah,
mm,
reason I ask is I'm really curious because most of my life, we're taught to be really prepared and organized. And
mm,
my whole life, I'm a last minute kind of girl. Um, the more you hear about, ADHD and things like that, and I guess a lot
mm,
of reflectors always go, oh, got a little bit of that. But
right.
it's the dopamine. It's literally like I can leave everything to the last minute and suddenly it's like I have to build the energy. The energy's got to build, build, build,
Hmm.
build, build, and then I can do it. But if I action something too soon, it's like I don't have enough energy to see me through to completion. It's
Right.
fascinating. So I've been really looking at this within myself over the last year of
Hmm.
watching and going, you know what you know. So I love that you were saying that. And you know what you know, you're good. You got a first line there as well. It's like it's my
Right.
saving grace. Um, and it just kind of like the energy carries me through.
Hmm.
So I'm sorry, I just had to
It's
speak on
fine. It's
that.
fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But
I
this
appreciate that so
transitionary
much.
year that you're going through, so keep talking on that because you're coming into your first Saturn return as well, or you're in the process of that. So it's very going to be a
Hmm.
very interesting year for you.
Yeah. And there's definitely some struggles I do see myself that have made themselves very apparent to me that could affect block of time that I have available. Uh that will make a large block of time of what the how do I phrase that? There are obstacles that I do see that could take a large block of time away from me and like away from me. So I'm figuring out now how I need to navigate those and how I need to move things around. So that's kind of where like the fighter in me kind of kicks up. Uh, um, but it's just like the great unfolding is what I'm seeing. So like some people are naturally getting further away from me. Some people are moving closer to me. Some of them are people that I thought would. Some of them are people I didn't expect. And I'm excited, so excited about the big opportunities that like are right in front of me. Because as I said earlier in our conversation, before I joined the military, I didn't have consistency in a career path. So I wasn't able to break over a certain threshold financially. But like now that I have these credentials behind me in human resources and I can translate those to the civilian side, the upside is so great. And I am so excited to have that greater space of freedom that I'll be applied to projects. Um, so I'm just excited. Yeah, it's gonna be some struggles. Yeah, I need to be like on top of things, but it's gonna be worth it. I'm just excited.
Very excited for you too. And you just saying there before that, some people are moving towards you, some people are moving away from you. And
Hmm.
going back earlier, and when you're talking about, I'm at that point where I want to find my community, they're already finding you.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
sometimes it's as easy as that we get caught in this whole we've got to find our community, but it was
Hmm.
never supposed to be like that for us. And that's very difficult because we're like, ah. But when we naturally watch the unfolding, they
Hmm.
come to us. They do.
Yeah.
When we are living in I believe this, when we are living in alignment and we're doing things
Excuse
and
me.
we're in alignment, yes, we're
Hmm.
navigating what's in our greatest good, they come to us.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And
And you know something that's a scary experience. That's in certain moments it can be scary, but like something that like does cause a little bit of anxiety for me, especially as a reflector, because I see so many things and I see people that want to be around me. Like like before I found human design, I was having issues with consistency and trying to establish these patterns in myself. What I've come to notice is I've always had anxieties with initiating actions, initiating interactions, being that driving force for it. Because I find that when I do that, people look at me as a go-to guy to do that. So when I stop doing it, it goes away. So it's kind of like I need to well, that's segueing. But the thing that I find is when I'm interacting with someone that needs some form of a correction, and I know that they're an abrasive person, like stepping into that space internally where it's like, okay, this is a person who wants to be around me, is fighting to be around me, but they keep doing all of these wild things to get my attention because I'm not reacting the way that they want. And it's like, okay, I need to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more conversationally hands-on with this and be like, look, hey, I don't do that. I need you to stop doing this. I just don't like when you leave me alone. I mean, leave me alone. Give me a couple days. I'll be back. And just being that aggressive person is free for me because I always have to ask a question of like, okay, once I start down that path, that's bringing it into the real, bringing that energy in the world. That's going to shake up this entire dynamic. And it's the question of, is this someone that is always going to be an altercation for me? Do I have to actually kick this person out aggressively? And I feel like the thing I struggle with, especially with being a reflector, is recognizing when something needs a high amount of energy to push it to where it needs to be. And that energy needs to come to me.
yeah. And what you were just saying there before really just sounds like boundaries.
Yeah,
And I know that's a cliche kind of word, but it is, and us understanding
still
that,
a
and
necessary one.
yeah, it's spoken about that we need to be in good environments, and people go, oh, what does
Hmm.
that mean? But it's literally good environments means what works for you in this now moment, and people coming at you like that.
Hmm.
It's like there's a line. It's like absolutely not. And you walk away. I know it's easier said than done, but
Yeah,
we as reflectors, I think, need to develop very, very strong boundaries, because people will take and take. And if we're not aware of it, we will we'll let them walk all over us. And
absolutely.
that's the people in general, I know, but this is a
Yeah,
reflector
yeah.
podcast. So we're going to, I always sort of say that,
Yeah.
but it is, it's very true. We can't be available for everybody, because
Hmm.
not everybody's going to be available for us. And some personalities, even what you're talking about before, some energies just go, mm-mm,
Yeah,
they're not ready for
yeah.
the truth telling you're going to give them. They're not ready for who
Exactly.
you are. So it's like, until they're ready, walk away, because
Yeah.
they're impacting your environment and who you are, and they're messing with your chi. It's like, fuck
Mm.
off. Say that nice.
Yeah,
I'm Australian. I swear a lot. I apologize. Actually, I don't
no worries.
apologize. I just swear. Um,
No worries at all. But yeah, it's just like it's just the excuse me. It's just as you said. It's definitely one of those things you just need to establish strong boundaries. And it's just always interesting. You get certain people. It's like, oh, you really don't want to leave me alone. I have to kick you out aggressively. And it's like you feel bad for just a very turbulent time.
yeah,
I'll put it like that.
I think that another word for that is narcissists. They often say the narcissists, not to lay labels too broadly here, but they're very attracted to
100%.
reflectors.
Yes. Um. So it's interesting that you say that, because my experience with people who have like tendencies like that or directly that is that like they can't peel the onion that is me, because it's like, all right, got through this layer, okay, there's a layer, wait, that layer just come back, but it's just like this whole confusion of like, how do you deal with this, like with this person, because like I'm a reflector, everything's open, everything shifts and moves in certain timings. So it's just always interesting how people try to manipulate, but when you see it and you can react, but you're not reacting to it directly. So they're always like, does this person know that they're doing this? Like, because they're not being addressed directly. They're like, what is this smoke screen that I'm dealing with? Why can I not get to this person? They just seem so far away, but they're right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all just those types of personalities are very interesting to deal with. And more often than not, I find that like once they realize that unless they drop their guard, which thing they're terrified to do, they can't communicate with me, then they reposition themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I love that. It's given me some insight into some people that I deal with as well. And I love the
Mhm,
visual, because I'm a very visual person. I can really see that. So I'm going to go forward in life now. When this happens again, I'm going to think, "Ah, Jeremy was talking about that fog and that smoke screen." And I'm like, that's exactly what's happening right now.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. They just no problem. They just can't figure out how to get to you, and they're just so used to being able to get to people. And it's
Yeah.
like, nah, that's not what I'm here for. But you keep struggling. You're gonna figure it out soon enough.
See that, just speaking of that smoke screen, let's use that analogy here. That smoke
Hmm.
screen can also work the other way, where we are often perceived as it being invisible. Have you experienced that in your life?
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Um, for me, the invisibility comes from when I'm dealing with someone. I am so adept at adapting to their personality that they think I have so much in common with them and they invite certain things. And it's like, no, that's not something that I as a person am into. But and they meet that confusion of, oh well, we got along so well, I thought you'd been into this, into that, and into this. And it's like when they finally get that wake up call, no, that's not the case. They put you in this box of, I actually have no idea like who you are. And dealing with that end of the invisibility issue is something that I struggle with. It's something that I don't like, because like, how can I present myself to a person in such a way that like they get a more of a bird view of me to take me in so that I don't have to be invisible. But what I find is just like the only solution to the being invisible issue is is spending time with those people consistently and being in different environments with that person so that they can see you behave differently. Otherwise, they're always going to see you as like, oh, this is a super conservative guy who doesn't curse and doesn't talk like this to certain people and never breaks the rules. They see me in another environment. Who is he? Who are you? You got a twin, right? Like like it's always something goofy, or it's like, or it's giving me the whole identity crisis of like, you know what? I feel like you're struggling a lot with who you are, because because you don't typically act like this. So I think maybe you need some help, or maybe this and that. It's like, no, you just don't see me yet, and what you do see, you're not willing to accept as a part of me. So like that's kind of like my spiel on the invisibility thing. But like, yeah, I do experience that a lot. And I am very aware when that person doesn't see me for the breadth of what I'm capable of. And it's like, all right, you're trying to pigeonhole me, you're trying to build interactions based on identity that you have for me, but that's not who I am. So you can't introduce me to the right people if you don't see me yet.
Yeah.
So,
That's so powerful. That is so powerful. And even what you're saying there before, I can see that. And you've just, again, given me another idea about a lot of the invisibility that I talk to people about. You're sitting in a boardroom. We'll just use that. You're sitting in a boardroom and everybody's,
mhm,
giving their spiel. And there's often times where people will just completely go bypass you. They
mhm.
literally don't see you. And just talking to you then, it was just like, oh my gosh, so that could be that this person, this reflector in this room, is literally matching their energy to possibly the
Mhm.
facilitator. So the facilitator is only like, I don't know. I need to think on this some more, but I'm like, I think there's something in that of going, matching the frequency, matching them, because you're in that, you're taking on that energy. So there's not that they don't see you, it's just that they don't see you because they're seeing themselves.
Yeah, so they can't see you as a problem or as
Yep.
an issue because you're matching them, and they don't see themselves as an issue. They see themselves as a solution. So I'm a solution, you're a solution. Don't
Yep.
talk to you. Let's focus on this guy.
Yeah. I'm like, holy crap.
hmm So like, and again, because of the military, and because I constantly have to establish relationships with people so they understand that like I am of quality. I'm not just this person. I'm this person as well. Like sometimes what I do with people is if I see that they're coming into a room or that they're about to be in an environment that I'm in, that there's someone else that I know has access to another part of my personality, I will be a little bit more uh what's the word, like louder or a little bit more focused on this person if they do come into the person that needs to know me better uh is engaged in my presence and I know that they're paying attention to me. It's like I'll engage with someone else that has access to another side of my personality, but like I'll kind of bridge it with what they know and then smooth out the little areas with what they don't know
Well,
with
that's
all this
so clever.
conversation.
Where are your arrows pointing? That is so strategic. Where are your arrows pointing? What can I see? Oh,
Yeah,
that is so clever. That is so
I
clever.
but like I don't even view that as like a hard strategic thing. I just view that as a flow.
Yeah. Yes.
Flow. It's just kind of like, well, if I were to give it like a visual, it's like, okay, I'm fighting two people. I see that you see me as a boxer, and now and you're only trying to kick me, and I can deal with kicks, but I don't like dealing with kicks. So I want you to see kicks as not a solution to deal with me anymore, because I need you to see more of me. And I was kind of like, all right, I'm gonna flow you over this way because you keep because you keep approaching me, and like I'm gonna pull this person in and I'm gonna deal with them specifically with kicks. So you see that kicks are not a solution. I have a well-trained guard attack when it comes down to kicks. So now you're less inclined to kick me.
So amazing. Yeah. See, when you said that, I took it as like that's strategic, but now you're explaining it. I'm like, that is flowing.
Yeah, like
Still
it's
very
literally
subtle.
it's just a dance. It's just a
It's
flow
just
and
the
just knowing.
dance. Yeah.
Yeah, It's just knowing how to pull and push people. Not in the manipulation type of way, but like for their own good, so that they
Yeah.
can see what they need to see and be aware. Um,
But also protecting us so we can be seen and heard and felt and appreciated. The
yes,
flow, allowing it to
yeah.
come through. Oh, I
Hmm.
love that. That's, oh, I love you, Jeremy. You've just given me so much. You've just coached me, given me so
I
much.
am so happy. I'm so happy if it helps.
It
Oh,
does help. I'm so excited to see where this all takes you as you,
mhm,
have your transitory year.
mhm,
And
mhm,
just before we sort of start to wrap this up,
mhm.
is there anything that you would like to share on somebody finding human design? Like, is there something that you wish that you had access to when you first discovered this to make it a little bit easier for anybody listening out
Um,
there?
as far as understanding human design, I would say study your incarnation cross first.
About to say, speaking from someone who has the incarnation cross of tension.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, the incarnation cross will give you a lot of insight on the big parts of how you operate and finding ways to where you relate and where you leverage and when you don't leverage and where you have the capacity to leverage that is going to be pivotal. Because throughout this whole conversation, I've been talking about fighter, 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 fighter. It just so happens I was raised as one, but I didn't know I had the interactions of it because what is it? My Earth. Let me pull my chart back up.
In 38.
Yes, my design Earth is that of a fighter. I am all about understanding where I need to position and having the fortitude and that energy that I need to hold that ground. And that has helped me phenomenally in so many ways. And understanding what it gives me access to is mind blowing. And I can't imagine being anything else other than what I am, because that is such a powerful tool for me.
Incredible.
I don't know
Yeah.
what I'd do without it.
No, that's who you are. The
Mhm.
beautiful, beautiful, perfect you.
Thank you so much. And also, again, thank you so much for like this call and for creating this space. Thank you so much for creating this space. I love so much listening to different people's journey and how they've used their strengths and how they've navigated their weaknesses and what their strengths and weaknesses have done to them. And it's just so helpful and gives me different spaces to focus on and enlightens me in different aspects of who I am and who other people are.
You are more than welcome. And I'm so glad to hear that. It's what it's all about. We don't all need to profess to know everything. We just got to share and talk about our story. And it's helpful, it's healing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, thank you so much.
If people want to connect with you, are they able to connect with you, Jeremy, at all?
I'm not a big picture taker, but I am on Instagram and I do leverage my Instagram. So if there's something about this that you heard here and you want to have a conversation with me or just reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram at JL Harris. That's JayLharris. All one word, no spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can just reach out to me on Instagram and we can have that conversation if it's something grab you.
Yeah, this has been so
Indeed.
good. And I thank you so very much. And I can't wait to catch up with you again soon.